Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Talking God and Politics with Mark, Mike, and my beautiful wife, Denise. A lot has happened since our last show. And Mark, first of all, I like that shirt. Tell me about it.
Yeah. I actually made this for me and you back 3 years ago. My first Berean conference 3 years ago, and I thought, well, you know what? I got to bring gifts, and I said one of the gifts I'm going to bring is Mike a T-shirt. So I thought I'd wear it tonight. Of course, now we're going to have to change it because
to Denise and Denise.
We're missing somebody, but that's all right. I'll get it done. I'll send you guys some shirts.
Amen. Amen. Well, I think Mark, you had some things you wanted to lead off on. And then we also
we've been on a little hiatus, and I thought, you know what, maybe this episode will we won't talk about Israel and the Jews. And for 2 weeks, that's all it's been about. So this whole episode's probably going to be, no, I've got a couple of things about DOGE and some other stuff. So yeah, we can jump right into it. The first thing, DOGE, I thought this was interesting. Jesse Waters had sat down with the DOGE team, and it was the first time that you actually got to see who the team was, and the big reveal was who Big Balls was. So yeah, Big Balls has been revealed. But of course, they removed the curtain behind another federal entity wasting money, hiding money, and doing other nefarious things. So right into it here. Oops, there we go. Let me zoom in. All right. So here it is. Make sure you can hear it here.
Just a few hours after
you hear that?
To their headquarters, they found that the accountant had actually deleted over a terabyte of accounting records from several years. So you'd have to ask the question, well, why would somebody do that? The DOGE team, fortunately, was able to recover that data with the help of a few great employees at the Institute of Peace. And I think the most troubling thing was they received $55 million a year from Congress, and any money that went unspent, instead of returning that to Congress, they would sweep it into a private bank account, which had no congressional oversight. And that's what they would use to fund things like events at their headquarters and the private jets. And so I think it's a great example because most Americans don't know what's going on at a lot of these smaller agencies. And this is, I think, the most extreme case of some of the wasteful spend that we're finding.
Yes. So they were, and I jumped over here. So the United States Institute of Peace, what is that? Because I was like, what? I'd never heard of that. Of course, it's another big entity funded by Congress. They get their budget is $55 million a year. They've got 300 people working in the Institute, the United States Institute of Peace. And what they do is they provide research and analysis and training to individuals in diplomacy, mediation, and other peaceful things. And it was actually established in 1984 by President Ronald Reagan, which was probably, a setup for when the wall was going to come down. And of course, once an entity gets created, it never goes away.
So they just take
and here we are. Yeah. So DOGE uncovers the fact, they're $55 million. So whatever they didn't spend was going into a private bank account where the employees could fly charter jets. They would throw parties and all kinds of things. And thankfully, though in the last episode, we gave Trump quite a hard time. In February 2025, President Donald Trump signed an executive order with the intention to dismantle this United States Peace Institute of Peace. And in March, he ordered the U.S. IP Board of Directors to be fired. Under the statute, the president may remove board members with the approval of the majority of the board or several congressional committees. And of course, the Department of Government Efficiency subsequently entered the building to replace its leadership, fire its staff, and assume building ownership. So, well, hopefully, now, of course, the next president could come in and resurrect this institute, no problem. So we really need Congress to do something because they've done nothing
Nothing.
since they've been elected. So we'll see. But at least for the interim, we've shut down another terrible institution.
Low hanging fruit, but I appreciate anything you can do.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure we'll get into it. So I wanted to talk about the HR 80. Well, let's see. Hang on. Well, all right. Yeah, we'll go there. All right. So the House is set to vote Monday on HR 867, the IGO Anti-Boycott Act, which this is an amendment to already existing law.
Yeah, scary.
But they just wanted to make sure that it included Israel so that individuals or companies in the United States, when a international government authority says, we're boycotting this country, well, it makes it illegal for any citizen and or company in the United States to do that. And they just wanted to make sure that Israel was in there multiple times to cover whatever base.
Yeah,
I think honestly, it's a nothing burger. The rule says, let's see, I'll read it. It's a bunch of legal. It's very confusing, actually. It says the bill expands an existing anti-boycott law to include certain boycotts imposed by international government organizations. Current law prohibits various actions by U.S. persons or entities in relation to boycott imposed by foreign governments on a country which is friendly to the United States and that is not itself object to a boycott, which seems a little confusing to me. This bill applies those prohibitions to similar boycott imposed by these foreign governments.
But Israel's the only one that's mentioned, really, isn't it?
Well, no, the original law applies to everybody. It's very confusing, and I have not been able to find enough information, but it's like, what's his name that proposed this? Lawler. He's Michael Lawler out of New York. He's a Republican out of New York. I'm not sure why he's proposing this as an amendment to include Israel, because I looked at the previous law, and it pretty much covers any friendly ally to the United States. So I think this is just a thing that, because he's probably, I haven't researched this, which I probably should have, but he's probably getting a lot of money from who, and he feels like he needs to do something for that money, and this is what he's going to do.
Right. Yeah. Right.
But it feels like, whatever. It's like, I get $200,000 a year from this AI pack, so I'm going to do this, and hopefully they'll be happy.
Well, so
I don't really see a big deal.
There are some states already on the books that make it illegal to boycott Israel. Congress is now currently trying to get it so all states.
I got you.
That's my understanding of it. And that's crazy. But I think what you're saying there is something new that I haven't heard, in that it applies to other countries. Before, I only understood it to be only referring to Israel, which created a red flag for me, because why we can boycott any country, and even our own country, and yet Israel was the only focus. Whereas you're saying, well, no, there's other countries.
Yeah, it's all friendly allied countries to the United States. And the bill also requires the president to annually submit to Congress and make available to the public a report describing these boycotts and listing the foreign countries and international organizations involved in the fostering or imposing of these. So it's very confusing. It's been on the original one's been on the books for a while. I think it's just basically saying that, look, you can't, if, some NATO organization or some World Health Organization says, hey, let's boycott this country, which, if you notice, during the fires of Israel, when, Israel's been on fire now for, I don't know, 4 days, 3 days. Yeah. Greece said no, they boycotted sending anything to help put out the fires. So I don't know if this applies. It really seems goofy as what, and it sounds like to me he's just checking a box for the money that he gets.
Mark, when I first heard that, what is it, a third or a fourth of Israel is on fire, of course, I thought, well, and here's the thing. Let's get this out. Israel, of course, is blaming Palestinians and Hamas for starting the fires.
True.
Other people are saying, no, Israel regularly burns Palestinian land on a regular basis, and that Israel started the fires and it backfired, pun intended, on them. Regardless, here was my point. Oh, crap. Now I know where my taxpayer money is going to go. We're going to go and rebuild Israel because we're already paying their health benefits for their IDF soldiers. So, and AIPAC pretty much runs our country. So we know where our taxpayer money is going to go. It's going to go back to rebuild Israel for the fires they most likely started to burn Palestinian property and make it their land. It's just a mess.
Yeah. Well, and Tucker sat down with Matt Walsh, and I haven't finished the whole thing. Really good. And he said they started talking about Israel, and he brought up the fact that how is it that a country can be a sovereign nation when it's solely dependent on another country? And the first thing that flashed into my mind was we always complain about welfare, and we've got all this welfare in the United States, and our biggest welfare baby is Israel.
Absolutely.
By far.
Yeah.
And people are like, we got to get rid of welfare. And I'm like, yeah. And we need to start with the number one welfare baby that we have on the books. Amen. Let's start there. And then we'll work our way towards our American citizens. How about that?
Amen.
I don't agree with any of it, but let's start there first.
Right. Israel and Ukraine, because we fund so much of Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least we're trying to get some money back from Ukraine. But notice Trump isn't trying to get any money back
from Israel.
No. And this, again, for those of you that are new, and I'm just going to touch on it real briefly, Rothschilds, they stated in the very beginning, we don't care who the king is of a country, the prime minister, or the president of any country. All that we care about is if we control the monetary system of that country, we run the country. And ever since the Fed in 1913, with the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank of the Rothschilds primarily, they have been running our country, period. And so when you look at, well, at least we have some conservative Christians in our government. Notice the only ones that are allowed to really represent you are evangelical Zionists. Who love Israel and are willing to destroy the First Amendment for Israel. That is telling you who is running this country.
Yeah. Okay, and it's unbelievable. Even now, not only running the federal government, but now it's worked its way into the states. And Texas, of course.
Good segue, yes.
Abbott has come out and said that what was the anti-Israel policies are anti-Texas policies. And by the way, in Texas, there's a 0.6% of Jewish people in Texas, 0.6%.
But doesn't John Hagee have a massive 10 million church congregation?
Yes. In fact, he sat down with Greg Abbott and he
I'm
helped
sure
him
he did.
No,
Dr. Armageddon.
He probably did.
They call John Hagee Dr. Armageddon because he's constantly wanting a preemptive war with Iran so we can usher in Armageddon and be raptured. Totally unbiblical.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. And reading through it, this may be a nothing burger as well. I think maybe they did it to just kind of show that, because I don't know. I think what's worse than this bill that he passed was the one where he says it's and it wasn't him actually. It hasn't even gotten to his desk yet. I hope that he'll actually veto the bill and send it packing, but we'll see. But the Texas House and Senate passed a bill to make it illegal. Well, not illegal. You can say whatever you want on social media about the Texas government, but you have to preface it with, this is, I forgot the word, but it's basically like, this is a joke, or, to make sure that everybody understands that this is,
that is a
their
slippery
opinion.
slope. That's a slippery slope, because we
Of
all
course.
use satire to make a serious political point. So I'm
Yes.
not sure. I think that law is going to go nowhere fast, at least if it hits the Supreme Court, Lord willing.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think if Texas does pass it, here we go again. It'll be another one that's going to go to the Supreme Court. Hopefully this time, unlike, abortion, because that came out of Texas back in 1969, the Supreme Court will send it back to Texas and say, you guys figure it out. But anyway, Texas, I always looked at Texas as like, kind of like Tennessee and Florida, kind of, but
that's what I told her. I said, when we heard about Abbott and what's going on there, I said, well, I'm glad we didn't move to Texas. So I'm glad we're in Tennessee.
Yep. Amen on that. I think that's about it. I will say, we last time we talked, it was Iran possibly going to war. Looked like Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance reportedly teamed up to oppose the war in Iran. So hopefully cooler heads prevail there, and we can maintain some sort of diplomacy and sit down and stop all this madness. But that's about it.
Okay.
I hope so. But I was going to say, because you were talking about DOGE, which is, Elon Musk. Steve Bannon came out, and not too long ago and talked about how he's not a huge fan of Elon Musk. He said that, DOGE is doing a good job with what it's doing, but he's not a fan of Elon Musk because Elon Musk is such a transhumanist. He has serious reservations about Elon Musk. So talking about transhumanism, we found this clip that was on Fox, which is such a good.
Is this transhumanism though?
Yeah.
Okay.
It hits on it.
All right, let me pull this up here. Just before I go to this, Laura Ingraham and having this particular guest on, I forget his name. This was the first time I saw Fox completely deal with the World Economic Forum, completely deal with globalism. And she did something with this guest a long time ago, and she's continually had him on, which amazes me because, Fox is kind of controlled opposition, and even Tucker was not allowed. He could only eat around the edges of the World Economic Forum. So I really like this guy. I like what Laura Ingraham is doing here. Let me see if I can get this up.
Joining me now is Ned Ryan, American CEO. Ned, great to see you tonight. It seems that the goal of this crowd is to kind of create the same panic about climate change that they successfully created around COVID. Do I have this wrong?
No, you got it correct. I mean, first of all, we have to accept the World Economic Forum is a fanatical political organization that uses fear and manipulation like COVID hysteria, like the hoax of global warming, to really facilitate people thinking that somehow they're the saviors, but really all you're doing is helping them accomplish their goal, which really is a global public-private fascist movement and fusion of big government, big tech, big money to create a technocratic ruling elite, which conveniently is them. And really, Laura, if you want to look at a different way too with the World Economic Forum, they want to create feudalism 2.0, in which we are serfs and they are the lords ruling over us. You'll have nothing and be happy is one of the things that comes out of Davos. That's what they're aiming for. They're aiming for feudalism in which we are serfs and we should be happy that they are ruling over us.
Well, that was nice to see, coming from Fox.
Yeah, no doubt. And have you seen the guy that's taking over I guess he's the successor of Klaus Schwab to lead the World Economic Forum?
Isn't he like 83? Like he's old too.
I don't know that he's that old. Here, I got a picture, man, but something's really going on with this guy. At first, I thought maybe it was, like Marilyn Manson's dad or something with the eyeball, or it was an effect. I don't know, but look at this. What is going on?
I don't know.
I mean, that's crazy. It's like, man, you got some serious health issues. You don't need to be running anything. You need to be running to the hospital. Anyway, look at that. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I don't know what's going on, but that's the guy that's taking over.
Yeah. Interesting to see where that's going. On that note, let's talk about Kennedy. Let's see. This is where, no, this is child trafficking.
Yeah.
There's another one by Kennedy where he's going over COVID.
It's right
It's
there.
right here. Let's do this one. Okay, let me share screen.
And we need to talk about bioweapons. The level, I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years, and the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure of genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and Black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted that or not. But there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential and impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA.
All right, so let me unpack this just a little bit. Who runs Big Pharma? Well, we could say Rockefellers, which would be true. But who runs Rockefellers? Rothschild. So COVID comes out, and at this point, it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody that this was a bioweapon, okay, that whether you think it was accidentally released or purposefully released, we believe purposefully. But who was it targeting? It targeted whites and blacks. Now, we know Bill Gates has been trying to destroy the black population for a long time with his vaccines, destroying women's reproductive.
Oh, yeah, in Africa. I think they banned him.
Right. So we've got that, and he's a globalist, and he's a depopulationist. So is it any surprise, Mark, that COVID is designed specifically to destroy Caucasians and blacks, but Mark, the most immune to COVID were Ashkenazi, which is really Khazarian, quote unquote, Jews that have no DNA relationship to Abraham. I hate to throw that out there to my Christian Zionist friends out there, but these 90% of those in Israel are from the Khazarian Empire. No relation to the 12 tribes of Israel. No DNA relationship to Abraham at all.
That is a
These
fact.
people are practically immune to COVID. And then the next group, Mark, that is immune are the Chinese. So let's think this through just a little bit. So globalist Rothschild Jews are at the top of the food chain of the globalist empire, which our friend from Fox is eloquently discussing. And so when they roll out their depopulation agenda, they're going after whites and blacks while at the same time making themselves immune. But why would they make the Chinese immune? Well, they are the biggest threat to the West and to the whites and even to the blacks. So they're empowering an enemy to the whites. So it makes perfect sense to me.
So, well, here's a couple things. One is there is no doubt that a government military created virus, they did not think, they absolutely thought about how they could make it so that it could target a certain ethnicity. Without question. I mean, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it that way. No argument there. But we know that the U.S. military helped in creating this at the Wuhan lab.
Yes. But who's the U.S. military owned by? You know, when we talk about the big threat of the industrial war complex machine that Eisenhower warned us about, who really owns that? Again, it goes back to Rothschild. And so,
well, and you look at two countries that also had the majority of compliance to these vaccines. Israel.
Yeah.
99%, and China pretty much 100%. I mean, they either killed you or you took it, or they welded your door and said, okay, fine, you'll starve to death if you don't take it. So I don't know. To me, it seems a little of a stretch, but I agree with you in the sense that there is no question when you go and design a virus, you are designing it to pinpoint certain things,
Absolutely.
certain ethnicities, you want to control every aspect of it.
Well, that's
So,
where
no arguments there.
we are. That's where we are in bioweapon engineering. Period. So when this weapon was released, this virus that is a bioweapon was released, is it just an accident that the Ashkenazi or the Khazarian Jews are the most immune to it, and then the Chinese, and yet the whites and I don't see that as an accident. But you know, what do I know?
So then why would they make 99% of their people take the vaccine?
Okay, now the vaccine and the actual COVID virus are two different things. And you know, with the vaccine,
You also
they can put whatever they want in that.
Yeah. You also have to wonder if the vaccine, quote unquote, that say they gave out in Israel to their people, did it actually have?
Is it the same that they gave to us?
Right.
No, it was actually just saline solution.
Saline, exactly.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it does.
And ours had when you unfolded the thing, it had this many ingredients in it.
If it had anything at all on that pharmaceutical paper, which
didn't they stop, like at first it was in the box, and then people started showing up on social media and they're like, okay, get rid of that, because I did see a couple of nurses, they're like, there's nothing in the box.
Blank. Yeah, it was blank.
Yeah,
it was blank. But it does make you wonder, okay, so we know that they're ethnically targeting people. So here we have all of these bioweapon labs showing up on the border between Ukraine and Russia. Russia, which is a quote Christian country, Ukraine, which is not, which is actually now imprisoning people for, going to certain churches and things like that.
Oh,
it makes you wonder, Yeah.
Let's pick up on the vaccines, because let's do Judy here.
Okay.
She's got some good things to say. If I can. There we go.
Of publications and Every one of those viruses has already been injected. I'll show you the 2011 Wuhan paper, October 31st, 2011. It's in our database. Oh, all those viruses in that back cave, all those things that came out straight out of Fort Detrick, Maryland. Are we the people going to let them play? Are we going to ever let them inject anything in our children again? Are we going to get these criminal commercials off the TV? Are we going to stop reinventing and ignore 50 years of publications and stop treating the people and pretend somehow these are vaccine preventable diseases? When you injected the disease, they don't jump to species. You're injecting the dogs. You injected the plants. You injected the eggplants. You GMO. You've destroyed the food supply. There's no bird flu. PCR is not a virus, not another shot ever.
So true, man.
Yeah,
she is a serious weapon on our side.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got all the goods on Fauci. You know, I just hope that the Lord keeps her alive to do what she needs to do.
Yeah, did you hear O'Keefe has gone dark?
Yes.
We
We have some things. Yes.
Yeah, we have a video on that. Let's that's a good cue up here, right here.
Right here.
Let's see. Do that. Do this.
This could be an exclusive. On Talking God and Politics, we're going to show what
It's on my Patriots hat. You ready for this? One of the kings of real journalism, James O'Keefe. And if you haven't heard of him, look him up. Him and his crew just went into hiding. They've got two massive stories that are getting ready to be released that are going to shake the foundations of America.
That's what they're saying.
I'm not suicidal. Pray for me. This one scares me, guys.
These stories are so big that him and his crew go into hiding because they're in fear for their lives. Well, guess what? He just handed over the dead man switch to Alex Jones. Watch this.
You know, I'm given this information, obviously, as a dead man switch, so that if the people that are set to release it get killed, I release it. So I talked to James O'Keefe this morning, and I'm the only person he's told this information to. And he and his crew are going into complete hiding. And they're going to release two big stories. He said next week. I said, you got to release this right now. And I said, so let me guess, you called in case they kill you, right? He goes, yeah. Two big ones. Both gigantic. One much bigger than the other. Much more dangerous. I mean, I would say these stories are, this information's more dangerous than everything he's broken before combined. If anything happens to me, I didn't commit suicide.
All right. So these James O'Keefe, he's got now the biggest following he's ever had. Alex Jones has blown up. Everybody's listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the greatest marketing ever, or is this going to be some legit stuff? That is the question.
It could be a little bit of both. I think they've learned how to do the theatrics. They've learned. Alex Jones is definitely good with the theatrics and marketing, but he brings the receipts most of the time.
Most of the time
when he's reporting. Of course, we've covered two of his books, so he definitely brings the receipts, the footnotes to what he says.
Yeah. Which I'm a convert after that second book. I will I will concede that I have become a Alex Jones.
But because there's so much marketing in what he does, that sometimes you're like, huh. And then you kind of see James O'Keefe kind of stand up. I mean, that was a little dramatic. But
right.
I think we can't dismiss it just because they're trying to learn how to grab
I agree.
your attention, but at the same time bring something really. Now he says this is bigger than the acorn peace that he broke a long time ago. So we will see.
We will see. Hopefully, it won't be a Geraldo Rivera, Al Capone vault thing.
Right. I don't think so. But both of these guys, they would lose so much of the reputation.
No, absolutely. I know.
I don't see that. It's just a matter of how big is this.
Right.
Well, apparently one of James O'Keefe's crew members has already went into hiding even before he made that. And I think I shared that one with you. So that we could play that. And that had to deal with the State Farm insurance company story that they broke.
Yes. Well, you look at, Alex Jones, one of his guys got murdered.
Yeah.
And I'm not hearing of any investigation. It's just kind of being swept under the rug. Is it? I don't know what's going on, but the guy was killed.
And then Owen Schroyer keeps getting swatted.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Eva, do you remember, you know, the blonde Dutch journalist, first name Eva, last name?
Yes.
I cannot pronounce her last name, not even going to try. Yep. But she just put out a video saying that Apple contacted her and said that mercenary spyware has been installed on her phone to spy on her. I did see that. So there's a lot of stuff going on out there.
There is. There's like little pieces. Look, I think it's going to be something. I'm just like, I'm skeptical because of exactly the clip. He kind of just gets up and it's like,
I know.
It's kind of looks a little staged. We'll see.
So true. What else you got?
You got anything? I don't have anything else, and I've got a hard stop at 6:30. So I will say in the chat, RacerX said, what did he say? Where was that? I liked it's hard to believe, Racer. How do you can you post his
which one?
RacerX, it's hard to believe John Hagee. Can you put that up there?
Oh, here we go. Let's see. Yeah.
And I want to say hi to Deb. Deb's in the house, but it's hard to believe John Hagee is even saved. The man has made an idol of Israel and Jewish ethnicity and venerates and worships. I have questioned that for years. It's between him and God, but I'm like, man, it's this guy.
Mark, let me show you. Let me explain how bad this is. I documented this in Armageddon Deception. John Hagee came out and said, we do not need to evangelize Jews in Israel because they have their own relationship with God.
Totally unbiblical.
Mm-hmm.
So now I don't understand why Jesus and the apostles were evangelizing Jews in the book of Acts or in the Gospels. They didn't have John Hagee's expertise
right
that they needed the gospel. Right. So basically John Hagee is saying that the old covenant relationship with Israel continues and that they can be saved apart from the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't
but only in the church age. This only happens in the church age.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It according to Paul, it is another gospel.
Right. I don't think Paul
the Judaizers would love John Hagee.
Yeah,
they would love him.
Yeah. Paul had no concept of the church age. So
yeah, and these are the guys that have Donald Trump's ear. They're
yeah.
And you didn't bring us a Paula White clip.
I know, and I looked. You know what? I think she's gone into hiding since the last one.
She's not barking in the spirit or being drunk in the spirit lately.
I think she's
not telling us to worship the Mother Earth
I did see her somewhere at the White House when she and some other people were singing Amazing Grace.
Well, was that after she was
on
last week? I don't remember now.
Hang on.
Noting her polytheism or
hang on. Let's see.
I mean, I don't want to separate you from your family,
Oh well, Paul. Look, they understand. Paula White is
Paula White's
comedy gold.
She's the girl on the side, Paula White. We've
Now I looked, I couldn't really find anything. I think she fired her marketing department. She's probably deep six that ad, and she's gone into hiding to reevaluate.
Now I wonder why she would fire some of her marketing. Was it because they only said that, you know, we would get one angel if we gave money? Maybe she was like, you guys should have said 10 angels per person.
Yeah. After all that spiritual stuff,
crystal cross, but 2 crystal crosses.
That's right. The crystal cross, man. Oh,
that's what brought you into this whole thing. I know.
That was it, man. Yeah. She's gone into hiding. She'll come out eventually.
Oh, well, she has to.
You know, she's all about her, so she can't hide for very long.
Yeah, bless it. All right, brother. Well, you get to your family, and
all right.
Appreciate your time. Sorry, this
all right, y'all.
Folks, for the most part, I did a show on the Book of Revelation with some of the guys, and it went a little late. And Mark has some time he's got to do with his family, and so we're cutting this a little bit short. So, brother, take care. We'll see you on the
thank you
next week.
Appreciate everybody in the chat. Thanks for watching.
Yes.
And contributing. See you guys.
Bye-bye.